Hi, guys. This is a quick and dirty. Frankly, I'm still traumatized by the result of the Argentinian election. So, just to remind you, Javier Milei got in, the chainsaw wielding psychopath who makes Trump look like an intellectual giant. I'm so disappointed. But moving on, so we're going to cover a few things today that have been on my to look at list, questions from viewers from different states. So we're going to dive in about that. So one of the things was Nebraska had a sort of direct vote on sick leave, as I understand it. 14 states have sick leave, 14, 1-4 out of 50. I don't understand that. Every other first world country has at least a week and sometimes more paid sick leave. But anyway, we are talking America. 24 states allow direct democracy. And some of the things, I like the idea of it. Some of the things that have been brought before a direct election have been raising the minimum wage, the abortion issue, legalizing marijuana, expanding Medicaid. So obviously things can be done in this way if more states embrace it. But I think it's also a case of careful what you wish for, because you can get a result like some state brought back the death penalty because of the direct vote. So it's not a guarantee. But I'd just like to have a look generally at the future of direct democracy in the US. Will more states embrace it or not? Let's have a look there. Thank you for this question. Direct democracy. They might. Challenge. Oh. All right. Well, for me, that would be a yes. As we all know, tarot's not marvelous with timing, so it could be 2024 and beyond this starts to happen. But it appeals to both sides. This is normally my GOP card, pretending to be happy families when they're really just swapping porn with their offspring or whatever the peculiar speaker is doing. I mean, who does that? Who does that? It's an admission to your son that you're looking at. I'm sorry, I digress. We won't go there. I think the Republicans like the name, they like the idea, but it doesn't always go in their favor. But it could be a way, because most Republicans vote against their own interests routinely, always have. Look at Reagan's popularity. I'm going to kill American manufacturing and send it all offshore. And everyone goes, yay, Reagan. Oh, I've lost my job. Okay. So sometimes the bite-sized pieces might appeal to them. Okay. That's interesting to me. Okay, their challenge is it could be a case of who has the loudest voice with this ace, but it is an opportunity for people to directly engage. You know, make the issue very, very specific. Because when you break down the issues, most people, ironically, we've forgotten this, want the same things. They just don't agree how to get there because they get siphoned off into the culture wars, right? You know, most people, I suspect, still want their children to have an education in the education system, for example, but their voices get drowned out. Okay, so there's a risk of that, but it also brings with it the energy of that. This could have bigger applications. That's interesting. When it happens, it could happen quite quickly with this Eight of Wands, and it could bring legal changes much faster. This is next to the Eight of Wands. It could be the way forward, because the situation now is with this crippled Congress, they're not governing. People are going to be frustrated with that. And Australia, UK, everywhere else, we're not sitting pretty either. Please don't think I'm America bashing. What's happened now, let me digress. What's happened now virtually everywhere is people are getting voted in for a 3 or 4 year term. And from their first day in office, they're looking at ass covering exercises and looking at their next election. They're not doing the job they're employed to do. And Australia, UK, everywhere else, Canada, blah, blah, that's before you get to the BRIC countries and other developing countries. You can't make sensible decisions that work for people on health, education, or energy if you're just the victim of these quick cycles. We need bipartisan agreement on those areas, and then you can fight over the other stuff. So I think that's quite optimistic. Maybe out of all this horror, we get a bit more direct democracy. But it comes with risks. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. Now, while I'm shuffling, thank God for that leaked video of Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell. I had a little laugh to myself, I have to confess, viewers. Apparently, Jenna Ellis was called by some Republican a disloyal harlot. What century are we in? Disloyal harlot. I did have a giggle. Okay. So let's have a look here. Our next question is, the Colorado judge who agreed that Trump did participate in an insurrection but can stay on the ballot. Other states are taking this on. I just want to get a general thing on this. Let's get a vibe, because I'm not sure. It sounds good to keep him off the ballot, but my feel is that could lead to more violence and disquiet than is worth it. So let's have a look. Will he be off the ballot anywhere? Will he be off the ballot anywhere? Okay. Oh, Tower. Ace of Wands again, Seven of Pentacles. Okay. It could be. With this Tower, this is my Trump Tower moment here. But I think by the time it was appealed and argued, Seven of Pentacles. Okay, so there might be quite a clear ruling somewhere where they say yes, but it'll be reviewed endlessly. And money in that state, whatever state it is, I think there's quite a few of them looking at this question as a question of state law and the state legislature. There was another place, Minnesota, where he'll get disqualified if 2/3 of Congress agree. But I think money talks. I don't think we'll actually see it in time for the 2024 election. If there's one thing we're now all acutely aware of, is how slow is the legal process. It's so slow that it can't actually deal with modern crises in real time. You know, I think we're going to have to see some sort of expedited court system, not just for this issue, but other issues. I mean, This 4 or 5 years to get to, oh, well, yeah, he did that. It's archaic. And what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I think there has to be like a flying squad of High Court justices or something that can be pulled together and deal with things that need to be done quickly, because the conventional old tired system is not working. Even when they get it right, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I feel I'm just aging on the side of the road waiting for some of these cases. You know, please spare me. Now, I'm jumping around back to New York. This is a question from another viewer about, will Trump.org actually be dismantled in terms of its assets and stuff? And the curious thing, if you listen to the testimony of the Yeti and the demon spawn, no one runs Trump.org. It wasn't me, wasn't me, wasn't me. Oh, well, it must have been run by the money men. So you have Alan Weiselberg, old school. Trump's lucky he didn't spill his guts. And McConney, who was interviewed, I think, yesterday on this, and who burst into tears and actually sank the Titanic, the Trump Titanic, by saying they produced his audits with Trump having to review the final audit, written on them all, there in writing. He should stop calling witnesses. It doesn't bode well. But let's have a look. Will they be able to wriggle out? Or will they lose major assets like Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago? Will the signature properties have to be sold? Will the signature properties have to be sold? Ah, this is the card du jour. You know me, digressing madly, raving on. It came up. Just saying. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Two major arcanas, a queen and an ace. So because this card's come up a few times, I need to dissect it, particularly for people learning tarot. Aces bring new energy. Now, wands are about fire, impetus, energy, and ego. Wands are about our ego and our identity. Okay. Now, there couldn't be a clearer case than the Yeti having his vulgar little tiny fingers in the real estate pies, and his whole identity is caught up with Mar-a-Lago and Trump Towers. So that's what's at stake here. There will be a ruling about all this, that they'll have to go to pay the enormous debts. Because unlike Jared Kushner, who's a slumlord in his own right with over 1,200 rental properties just in Jersey, I don't know that the Yeti spawn have that many concrete assets. And they'd be leveraged to the hilt because that's how they operate. Judgment, Queen of Swords. This judgment is going to come down, but the last cup, it's going to be held up. I think it's, I just heard 2026. That's interesting. Well, we have to be really patient and keep our popcorn habit in check, because I think it could be 2 years before the ruling that those properties have to be sold to pay for this court case. Once it's appealed, everything, I think we're looking at a minimum of 2 years. But I think it will transpire But a lot's going to be under the bridge between now and 26, is it not? Now, in other good news, the Wisconsin team of justices have ruled against the gerrymandered maps. Now, Dems also, I think, have been known to gerrymander in their day, but let's face it, the GOP couldn't win anywhere without gerrymandered maps. That's their, whole raison d'etre, gerrymandered maps. So the justices are poised to strike down these maps in Wisconsin. Okay, but I'm not going to read on that. I'm just reporting. In other news, let's have a look. Iowa Republican, I don't think he even got up, Jeremy Taylor. His wife has been convicted of 52 criminal counts. Talk about fraud and stolen elections. This is a classic GOP moment. What she did was what we used to all call ballot stuffing, pressuring, in her case, Vietnamese immigrants into just sign here stuff, bulldozing, to get extra votes. It was exposed when 2 students from Iowa went to vote absentee to find 2 people had already voted in their name. So she got caught. He got caught. And I think he didn't even win, with that. So what's going to happen to her in Iowa? 52 criminal counts. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Will this translate into criminal offences? Well, now this might seem like a terrible thing to say. I think she might be done legally for this. Star America trying to, clean up its act. She raced to get in bed with the devil, in other words, coming up with this scheme, and it was all too rushed. It was the speed that brought her undone. Emotionally, she's just trying to help her husband's chances. I don't think that's a brilliant legal defense, actually. And speaking of legal, here it comes. But this is the thing, my vibe on this, she's Vietnamese, so you know what? They might find her guilty because she's not Anglo. If she was a little white evangelical wife, probably it'd be swept under the carpet. Interesting. I think race is an issue in this case. When is it not an issue? But let's not go there. Now, speaking of race, let's go to Tennessee. Now, the neo-Nazis were holding a series of rallies, but they got hundreds of counter-protesters in Tennessee. Oh, my God. And they didn't get away with what they thought they'd get away with. Now, we all were so impressed with the Tennessee Three when they spoke up a few months ago. And I'm sure intrepid viewers, you all know how much I adore Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck. Maybe it's Trey that's got Tennessee off its ass and to counter demonstrations. Who knows? Yeah, it's come in. Sorry. Okay. Hang on, I've just got a housemate who's hungry. Come on in. Okay, last question. Tennessee. I want to know the energy around the neo-Nazis and the other side. Okay, let's have a look. we'll put the neo-Nazis on the right and we'll put the counter-demonstrators on the left and have a look. So, Nazis versus those opposed to the Nazis. Both sides are emotional. Okay, so have a quick look here. With the counter-protesters, this is the Page of Cups bringing a message, what Hogarth calls the stinky fish message. You know, so the message obviously went out. I'd imagine both sides would be using social media heavily. But it did get quite a big response here. King of Swords, this could be Antifa or others who are prepared to stand up and fight this issue. They also get the Hangman. So Hangman can be things are suspended, not happening quickly. They can be a new perspective with the halo, but it can also be a willing sacrifice. In other words, willing to go on the front line. Now, the neo-Nazis, whoops, didn't get the big turnout they expected. They will regroup. They're not going away. They'll regroup and go large, and they'll spew hatred with this Queen of Cups, you know. And they're saying the most vile and awful thing about all groups. So it's not over. It's like with this card, it's a stalemate. But I think it gave them a bit of a shock. I think they thought all the old boys and the young boys would come out because this is Tennessee. We know how to deal with this stuff. No, they didn't get that. Wow. So, guys, I'll be back before you know it. Let me know what you think about everything in the comments. And if you want a reading with me, email me. It's on the homepage. Take care. See you soon. Ciao.